Welcome to Beyond the Page, the official podcast of Choice, the magazine of professional coaching, where we bring you amazing insights and in-depth features you just won't find anywhere else. I'm your host, Gary Schleifer, and I'm excited to expand your learning as we dive into this article, have a chat with this brilliant author behind it, and uncover the learnings that are transforming the coaching world. When you get a chance, join our vibrant community of coaching professionals as we explore groundbreaking ideas, share expert tips and techniques, and most importantly, what we all love, make a difference in our clients' lives. This is your go-to resource for all things coaching. In the meantime, let's dive into this episode. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Coach Marlee Carlos, who's the author of an article in our latest issue, Trust, Why is it Intrinsic to Coaching? Her article is entitled The Power of Choice. I love that title. A Coach's Guide to Strengthening Trust. A little bit about Marlee. She's an ICF ACC coach, consultant, and facilitator who has spent more than 13 years with government, nonprofits, and educational institutions. She's partnered with leaders in diverse organizations to tackle complex organizational and people challenges, working with her clients to evaluate their performance, develop strategic plans, and increase employee and supervisor capacity to lead effectively through coaching and training. Marlee also has a certificate in leadership coaching for organizational well-being from George Mason University. Marlee, thank you so much for joining me today and for writing for Choice.
I'm really glad to be here with you.
And when you said I had to give that title, one of my little bum taglines is "You always have the power of choice." Bum. So when you put it in there, I'm like, and no, we didn't just pick it because of that. It was also a great article. So just say it, just say it. But so, what inspired you to write for us at this time? What's your connection to trust?
Oh. When you first put out the request for articles for this most recent edition, the topic of trust really resonated with me. When I think of trust and I think of my coaching training, there's a lot of emphasis on we need to trust the client, we need to trust the coaching process, and we need to trust ourselves to show up as coaches without having all the answers. But dang, that's pretty hard. And it's been a big part of my journey to work on trusting myself as coach in order to trust the client. And there's a really clear connection there between the two. It's not, oh, I'm just going to do the one. It's actually, I need to do both in order to be the best coach that I can be for my clients. And so, in a way, thinking about that topic of trust allowed me to do some self-coaching. Okay, what have I learned here?
Love it.
Where am I still struggling? And how can I get a little better and hopefully leave a nugget of some insight that may be useful to others?
Well, thank you. You did a great job of reminding us of trusting ourselves as well as trusting the process and the client. You spoke about letting go of three crutches. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, man, and these are crutches I lean on still and have to be very mindful of. So I talk about three crutches of we know it. So the expertise crutch, we've been there. So we have the experience crutch, and then we've got it. We have this kind of control crutch. So the we know it is, hey, I have a master's degree. I have a lot of experience in different organizations. I read a lot of literature. I've got a lot of good insights. So I know the answers, or I know at least a little bit more, hopefully, than my client. And let me see if I can lean on that to serve them. It comes from a good place of I want to do good by my client. I want to help them with their topic and their issue. Um, but it's again leaning on what I know versus trying to help the client tap into their insights and tap into their expertise and tap into their own level of awareness and strengthen that awareness in order to address their issues. So that's the we know it. And I'd say I live in the Washington D.C. area. And man, we got a lot of we know it's here. We are a high-powered group of people in this area. We run fast, we work hard, we rise, we lean on our degrees, and we lean on our experience, and we bring that forward quite a bit because that's what we're used to hearing, is to validate that I should be in the room. And so
Mhm.
it becomes very intrinsically tied in many cases. And I know it's something I've worked through to our value. So I know it, I'm gonna share it, and that's why I should be here. And that's why I'm a valuable coach. And it serves us in some situations. It can be a crutch. It can be a detriment when it comes to our coaching, though, because it says, oh, I don't just trust this client to figure out their own situation. I don't just trust this process of learning and self-discovery, because I need to show my value here by demonstrating my insight. The we've been there is often we've been in different situations that our clients are facing right now. And um, it's like I know it and I want to empathize with my client and I sympathize with their feelings right now. And it's yes. But actually that's not really very important that I've been there. What's more important is, yeah, I hear you're there right now. What's your experience in that situation? Because the way I experienced it is probably different. Um, and then we've got it so often, and I think of this really as a core piece of where I can stumble is like I control allows us to make sure that we're getting to maybe a good place. It allows us to like not feel uncertain. And it is a hard place to, it's a hard thing to let go of. It's a hard place to say, okay, I'm okay just saying, I don't know if we're going to get to the best answer right now. I don't know. And that's really unnerving until it becomes more of the norm, saying, I
Right.
just don't know for sure right now, but I'm okay letting go and saying, yeah, it's a journey. It's not about let me get to the answer and fix the problem. It's about the client growing and becoming more self-aware and more able to address the issues in front of them from the tools and the ways that work best for them.
Yeah, that's well said. Thank you for those. And it's interesting because I think in the last year been working on the room. I know I'm not the expert in the room, the client is, but there
Yeah,
seems to always be an inherent power bias. And so this fits in with letting go of that crutch that yes, I may know, but I also have to help the client know that that I'm not the one that has the answers for them. And that so I use the analogy now, this lately, we're driving in a car and I'm the passenger and you're the driver and you're setting the destination. I'm blindfolded maybe, so you need to tell me everything that's going on, why you're choosing it, what are your options, thought processes, learning and all that sort of stuff. So that's helpful. And oh my gosh, these crutches, yeah, in the beginning, it really you lean on the crutches, let go of the crutches, but you lean on the reminder that the client is naturally creative, resourceful, and whole, which is the way they said it with me in my training back 24 years ago. And it's still a constant reminder. It's the answer will show up. Don't,
yeah.
let go of that crutch, right? So,
That's right.
oh, thank
I
you.
love what you just said there because what you're pushing towards is yes, I'm going to let go of these crutches, but I'm not just going to have nothing to hold on to. What you're now holding on to is something different. And it's this deep belief of my client is creative, resourceful, and whole. And I can ask them questions to build that capability and build their own story and their own journey and their own path. So it's not just, oh, there are the crutches, good luck, right? You have something else that now you're holding on to and can guide your journey and be a part of your coaching process.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well said. Um, The whole issue is about trust. And why is it intrinsic to coaching? What's your view on it? Why is it critical to coaching?
You know, I love to read quite a bit and all the literature, everything I learned in coaching training, as I'm sure you did in yours, all points to that a client's growth, a person's growth and development comes from them working out their own solutions. It doesn't come from them being told. And I know that through experience too. My teachers at different points in time have told me these are things you should do, or my mentors maybe said these are things you should do, and I'm like maybe, but until I decide that that's the thing that will make the most sense, that's the thing that's going to work in my context and in the ways that I operate and show up in the world, I'm not going to grow and learn. I have lots of information, but I don't have the change that we look for and that we want our clients to experience. And and so a huge piece of that is trusting the client to get there and push themselves into kind of those new transformative spaces. And for me as a coach, that means, okay, I need to let go of the things I'm holding on to in order to really empower them to trust themselves and to guide them. And I have a coaching colleague, Beth Flanagan, who once coached me that, hey, you don't need to find the best question or the right question, quote unquote, to help the client shift their thinking. You just need to ask them a useful question. Like, what's a useful question? Because it's not about whether or not I'm showing up and being the most effective coach ever. It is about, can I help the client think through a different angle, a different perspective of their problem? Can I help them uncover some nugget that guides them in the next step in their journey? And I just feel like it's a mindset shift um, of trusting that it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to demonstrate my value. It's not actually about me. And by trusting that it's not actually about me, it's about the coach, the coachee, then I become so much more focused on their journey and their experience. And it is a more beautiful piece of helping them uncover what is perhaps hidden from them at the moment. Um, yeah,
Thank you. Wow, well said. And you said something else, trust the process. So it's
yeah,
trusting yourself, trusting the client, and trusting the process. The answers will come. Will they be right? No, but then letting go of that, trusting that that's the right path as well. So there's so many nuances to the whole conversation of trust.
that's right.
Where do you find that coaches or clients get stuck most frequently when it comes to trust?
Do you know, I think partly because I mentioned I'm in the DC area. I hear so much of we have a lot of consultants in our area, in case you didn't know,
Oh, yeah.
and
Lots of tellers.
we have lots of tellers, and so it's normal and it comes from a good place, really does, right? It's
Yeah,
I want to come from I want to come to my clients and say, I can help you grow. I can help you become a stronger leader, a more effective leader. It comes from this place of really wanting to serve the client, but it doesn't necessarily the approach of, oh, I know it. I have the expertise to do this. I've been there. I've got it. It doesn't actually yield the results that I'm hoping to deliver through my expertise. So I know I personally and in my area and in this um, part of the country, I'd say one of the biggest crutches that we lean on and where we get stuck is in this sense of my value as a coach comes from demonstrating my expertise and from demonstrating that I can add value through an answer to this client.
right.
And I think that takes some rewiring to shift out of
Yeah.
that mindset.
Yeah. I have my heart goes out to consultants that are also coaches and having to switch that hat from, and letting go of the crutch when you're coaching the client and then helping the client distinguish when consulting is over and when coaching is starting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. You wrote about 5 steps to greater trust in your article. What's your favorite step?
You know that the book I read a book recently and heard Michael Bungastenier's talk at a recent conference, and he talks about this piece of noticing when we're tempted to give advice, noticing when we're trying to give some insights and some tips to help our clients. And He talks about it as sort of the prizes. And that first step of let me notice when I'm doing something, when I'm offering advice, when I am not trusting the client and leaning on my own expertise. And can I start to notice it and say, why is that? What's the thing in me? Because again, it's a lot of self-coaching too. We talk about we're coaching the client, but actually to be an effective coach for our clients, there's a lot of self-coaching that has to take place. And you would know this with your 20 plus years of experience in coaching. And I can only imagine how many iterations of self-coaching
Oh my
you've
goodness.
had.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but it's this place of like, okay, how did that conversation go? What did I trust the client in as they were wrestling through that question, or did I lean on some great article I just read and wanted to share, or some experience I had that was very similar to what they faced, and I wanted to give them some insights from my experience. What did I do right there? So if I can notice it and then reflect on it and say, where'd that come from? Then I can start to shift my own perspective a little bit and say, okay, what would happen if I did something else? What if I trusted the client in that situation, didn't bring up my great experience? What would I have asked? What might have happened? And what if I try that out? It's none of I love so Robert Keegan and Lisa Leahy talk about how we change, adult change, and people how people change in their book Immunity to Change. And I love that they talk about setting up little experiments for ourselves, because I can't just tell myself, Marlee, you're going to trust now.
Yeah.
You're going to not share your experience. You're going to fully trust the process, yourself, and the client, and go. It just doesn't work. I don't know if there's like some super coach out there who has figured that out, but for me, it starts with this process of let me notice. And that feels like the most critical step, because if I can notice it and be curious about it, then to use the name of the magazine, then I have a choice. And
Right.
what do I want to do from that position of now being more aware of how I naturally respond? And I can start to make decisions differently.
Yeah. It's called reflective practice after the call. How did I do? Was I
Right.
contributing too much? Was I holding on to a crutch? I have an acronym that I've had for a little while this year, WAIT, and it
Yeah.
kind of encapsulates everything. Why am I talking? And I've shared it with clients too, because they're learning a little bit of coaching at work and things like that. And they're just like, I learned it from a client and I give it back to my clients. But it's an all-inclusive to your point. Am I forcing a topic? Am I, we always used to talk about the little A agenda versus the client's big A agenda. And it's a casualty of Publishing Choice Magazine because what am I all thinking about this quarter? Trust. What comes up a lot in conversations? Trust. So we're human. We bring our context, and it's our job, though, to your point, is to self-coach and say, oh, okay, was that appropriate to bring it in? Did I do that thing again that I do as a publisher of choice where, oh, this is the topic, right? And but the beautiful thing is the client doesn't know, and the client's going to do with it whatever they do. So it's not like we're force feeding them trust or choice or whatever the topic is or whatever's going on for us in our lives. Yeah.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, so many great things. We talked about the steps, and I thought I'm remiss in not saying to our listeners who might not have read the article, there are 5 steps in the article. Step 1, pay attention. Step 2, name one opportunity. Step 3, set the vision. Step 4, test it out. And step 5, refine and build. And I'm purposely not going to explain all of those because I want our listeners to go read the article and use it as a tool to further their coaching.
The one we didn't talk much about in the previous question, but this idea of test it out and then refine and build. So human-centered design is a pretty common term now and fairly well-known term, used in consulting as well as other areas of work. But it's this idea of I don't know exactly what's going to help me shift. There may be different strategies that some work, some don't. And it's not the same for every person. There's not kind of an equal way of how do we change and how do we grow. So it's sort of this idea of let me just be curious and kind of create my own experiment. Um, and the idea, the term that can be correlated with that is prototyping, right? Like I'm
Mm.
creating this a little experiment. I'm going to try this time. Maybe I'll set up a little cue for myself, like a sticky note right next to my on my computer screen, where um, I give myself a prompt, so that when I'm coaching my next client, I read that prompt first, and it tells me, um, don't tell or don't tell a story. Breathe
Okay.
3 seconds before you you want to respond. Like, breathe and pause. Like whatever the prompt is that maybe helps me think for just a moment differently before I default to whatever my normal reaction may be, or my normal crutches that I would grab hold of. And and maybe that would work for me. That's the one I try most often. I have a whole set of post-it notes all around my computer screen. Um, and then and then see, does that work? If it doesn't, great. That is such a good data point.
Yeah.
And let me try something else. But it's kind of this fun way of saying, how do I help myself grow? And what's a new tool or a tip that may push me in the direction I want to go as a coach.
Yeah.
I co-lead a coaching book club with our ICF Metro DC chapter, and one of our participants a couple of books ago, she's an executive coach, and I loved what she said. It's really resonated with me. She talked about how behavioral change, so in our case, kind of moving towards this place of deep trust in ourselves and in the process and in the client, it doesn't necessarily begin with first changing your mind. It's not just, oh, I'm going to suddenly flip this switch in my mind and I will fully embrace trust. That's not often how we change.
No.
Um, and so, but first, we just sometimes the actual act of stepping forward and saying, "Yeah, I am not fully sure yet. I don't know, but I'm going to take a step because I think this is the best for my clients, and it's going to make me a more effective coach. So let me act first, and my mind and my emotions and my thoughts may catch up, but I'm going to start by moving forward." And I found that really powerful because so often I want to say, okay, let me reason it all out in my head. Let me adjust my feelings. Let me kind
Right.
of orient my mind. And maybe I just need to take this step and then I'll learn from it.
Yeah. I'm noticing how a lot of the work you're putting on yourself, and not in a bad way, just like again, reflective observation, reflect, observe, act, rinse, repeat kind of thing, right? So yeah. And from what I've been reading from, it's the common theme throughout the articles is again, it's trusting yourself. So what does it take to, allow trust in the room from your side of the room? Yeah, that's great. Oh my goodness, I can't wait for people to read the article and try these things out. What
Me
would you
too.
like? Yeah, yeah, exactly. And reach out to you. What would you like our audience to do as a result of the article in this conversation, other than what I just said? Read the article.
That's right.
Practical.
Step one, if we need to
Yeah.
add another set of steps for folks, is step
Yeah.
one, read the article there. Um, so once people take that first step, I would love to hear from them. I own a company called Journey Up Solutions, and so we're at journeyupsolutions.com. I would love to just hear what you're learning and what your journey is, and how what have you found successful, because I want to learn from you as well. Um, Test out. I'd love to hear what your tests are. What are the things that are working? Test out one of the steps and see what happens. I I will be attaching a one-page trust journal that will come out with the
Thank you.
podcast.
Very
And it's
generous.
just a set of reflective questions to guide it instead of having a blank sheet of paper that says, okay, how did I feel about this last session, this last coaching session? It gives a few questions that are maybe more directly focused on how did you experience trust in that
Right.
particular coaching session? And what would you want to do differently? Um, so
Thank you. Very
I'd love
much
to hear from
appreciated. So
folks.
lots of things for people to do should they choose to do so, because we talked about the choice. And
That's
for
right.
me, one of the things that you do, the tactics, is the post-it notes. I've started doing it, but I have one that a client sent me. You can't see it, but about change and dealing with change, and sometimes I just bring it in as a theory. Like, oh, I heard this from a client. Perhaps this is useful, and then they will or they won't. But I operate from a place of I'm trusting that I'm noticing and trusting that the client knows what to do with it, not Gary told them, but rather Gary offered an opportunity to think of it a different way.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
trust in that.
That's
Wow.
right.
So the best reach you again was?
LinkedIn is probably the easiest.
Okay,
So Marlee Carlos on LinkedIn, and I'd
perfect.
love to hear from folks.
And the website again is
JourneyUpSolutions.com.
journeyupsolutions.com. Marley, thank you so much for writing for us and speaking with us today and joining us for this Beyond the Page episode. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Really appreciate it as well.
That's it for this episode of Beyond the Page. For more episodes, subscribe via the podcast app or system that got you here. And we're hoping it's the choice-online.com/podcast URL, but whatever way, we're on Spotify, Apple, etc. If you're not a subscriber to Choice Magazine, you can sign up for your free digital issue by scanning the QR code in the top right-hand corner of our screen. If you're listening today and not watching, go to choice-online.com and click the Sign Up Now button. I'm Gary Schleifer. Enjoy the journey of mastery.